Okay, apologies, you'll now have to adjust your brains to English, but my German is only good for 5-year-olds. So, okay, many of you think you know Spreadshirt. It's been around for 15 years. We do 120 million euros of business across 18 countries with factories in America and across Europe. And here, yes, I am talking about the textile business. But we have to start by adjusting your mind to what is it actually Spreadshirt does. And we don't actually sell t-shirts. What we actually sell is the ability for consumers to express themselves. That the reason why we get 120 million euros of revenue at an average of 35 euros a time from customers is that they actually want to say something about themselves. The reason why somebody wears printed clothing or has printed products is they're expressing something about their life, what they are interested in, what they do. I'll come back to why I'm wearing a goat in a short while. But it is intrinsic part of people's lives. How they dress is how they express themselves. And that is what we're empowering people to do. And this is a big mega trend that actually, if you look at what people do on social media, a majority of them are sharing things and posting things because they're basically telling their friends and trying to tell the world what they do, what they're about. And this is growing and growing and growing. And it's affecting the way that people choose their clothes. It even affects even things like, let's say, the photo business. When I was growing up, you took photos, you put them in a book for your memories. Yeah? Nowadays, you take a photo and you show your friends what you're doing right now, and it's about now. Even if you print a photo now, it's to hang it up in your office or in your fridge or around your house to show people right now. And people are changing their canvases on the walls all the time because they're trying to express things they're into right now. And it's this immediacy that is driving. So, if you looked on my social media feed, you would see probably a disproportionate number of jokes about goats. This is because when I was a child, I lived on a farm and it's my job to look after goats. It somehow stuck with me all of my life. My oldest friend that would be on my Facebook list, his mum sold my mum a goat when we were 6. We've been friends ever since. And this is actually a present from a friend of mine where she drew a goat picture for me and then placed it on the t-shirt. And this is what we do. In the wonderful world of goats, we actually have 3 different business models you can use. My artistic friend went to what we call the create your own businesses, where she could upload the design, create a t-shirt, send it to me as a gift. And she enabled my expression of goats, and she was able to make a great present that way. We allow that, we enable that with a whole bunch of tools. But also, we put those designs out there. There are some 600,000 designs that you can use within that tool, so you don't have to be able to draw a goat. We already have goats in there. Then we have a second model, and that is a marketplace, where those designs that people create are put live, and people can come and buy them. So actually, my artist friend who did this, she now put that in the marketplace, and now people have been buying her goat picture. If you look in our marketplace, the German one has over 700 goat images in there. They range from fun goats to devil-worshipping goats to goat jokes which are not appropriate for work. Any aspect of goats is in there. And that's just a meme of goats. Any animal you like, anything that happens. Stephen Hawking died a couple of days ago. Within a couple of hours, we had Stephen Hawking's t-shirts appearing all over our marketplaces all over the world. And the biggest selling meme this week has been Stephen Hawking's t-shirts. Next week it'll be gone. Nobody will care. But this is what happens. It's a live generation of things that people want to talk about, things that people want to express. And then our final model is really that you can create a shop. It's a white label shop so that you could actually put your products for sale. And this allows YouTubers, bands, DJs, political groups to create merchandising and put it for sale, and they're utilizing our print on demand there, and they use our e-commerce platform, but it looks and feels like them. All of these tap into what is essentially a growing market of personalization, where consumers do not want to just buy standard products. They want to add to their own personality to those products and use that to express what they're about. And the good thing about that is, actually, a majority of people are willing to pay more for that. You see standard T-shirts in a supermarket selling for only a couple of euros. We sell them for about 20 euros because what's on them matters to the person. That's pretty cool. So we've been around now for 15 years, and what I thought I would do is take part of what is normally my director's briefing when new directors join a business, and we talk about the evolution of our business. Because all of you in your various print areas will have seen similar patterns to this, or will experience similar patterns to this. And as we have been around for 15 years, we have seen a lot of changes. So this is fairly standard curves that you will see in marketing books and investment books. That when something starts, hardly anybody uses it, but the expectation of this new technology, the ability to print, or ability to 3D print, or any other technology, somehow everyone gets super excited about it. Everybody expects this time next year we're going to be millionaires. Somewhere about here, my founder said that Spreadshirt would be 100 million within 2 years. We crossed 100 million last year in our 15th year, so he was out by maybe 12 years. That expectation booms, and then after a while it crashes a little bit because the expectation comes back down, and you get this trough of disillusionment, which we'll come back to, and then you get into this business where you actually get a real business. The same is true because that's driven by your innovators, your early adopters, and then this thing becomes a majority business where most people will get into it. Now, in my sector, which is that personalized clothing and home products, we've seen this. So in the early innovation days, there were very few of us around. And what we used to see there is the consumers who came in then, they were all print mad. They would be the people in the office who would tell everybody every day, here's the latest T-shirt that I had printed. And actually, those early consumers, they wanted to know about print techniques that we had, and they would ask questions about it. And this is what we had to inform them about and write articles about and care about. And it really was a very small group of people. I think most of them probably worked in printing or wanted to work in printing. And that was the early innovation group, and they were makers. They were people who really wanted to make stuff. Then, as it started to get better adopted, what we started to see was customers moved away from that. They were interested that it was printed because that was part of their expression, but they were mostly wearing it because it reflects some uniqueness, some social standing. In the YouTube market, YouTubers started to make merchandising. The kids wanted to be the first kids in the playground with that YouTuber's T-shirt, and they were cooler because they had a YouTuber's T-shirt where everybody else was wearing music or game merchandising T-shirts. And so there was an early stage of this adoption for the content and the consumer and their attitude and being seen to be an early adopter. Now, this then opened up an awful lot of competitors. We went through an absolute huge boom of competitors. And, okay, my life didn't get any easier. This was about when I joined Spreadshirt, actually. And we saw an awful lot of competitors coming up and receiving ridiculous amounts of funding, growing quite fast. But there was a general boom in the industry. And this is where most of these curves will then introduce this concept of a chasm. A lot of those are not sustainable, and many of you may have experienced this in your markets or may yet experience it, where those people who started really early boomed, everyone was exciting about them, and then as the reality of the market, as it starts to get adoption going on, it gets tougher, and people start to fail. And so on the left-hand side here, you can see Cafe Press's share price looking pretty miserable nowadays. It's kind of been bypassed by a lot of people. Teespring, who came into the market, they do promotions for YouTubers, boomed and then almost went bust last year, and really narrowly survived disappearing last year. On the right-hand side, you can see Spreadshirt and Redbubble, who work a lot more in sort of more international self-expression. We also went through our tough phases and are now coming out of them. But there is this stage by which a market grows up, and it's no longer around those innovations. It's a transition into basically being the mass market. And as we move much more into this majority market, you start to see it become standard that people are no longer caring at all about the fact it's print. They're caring about the content and what can be done with it for the consumers. And you start to see now that Amazon has set up print-on-demand factories within their network of fulfillment because they are printing on demand, licensing products. Rather than stocking hundreds of SKUs, they're just printing them for the people who want to sell them. That anybody can now set up a e-commerce shop through Shopify, and essentially many of them are selling print-on-demand products, but you would never know it as a consumer. It's just become a mainstream version of drop shipping, supply chain. It is not, to the consumers, exciting at all that it is print-on-demand. They don't care. And they care about what's on it. Does it match them? Is there choice? Actually, now we've had to introduce our own clothing line in order to get to the fashionable colors. We've had to introduce really wide sizes. So we got up to, I think it's 4XL now in Europe and 5XL in the US. So we're introducing 6XL into the US as our customers age with us and get bigger. That actually, they just want choice. They just somehow imagine that if they see a goat on a t-shirt, the 150 products we offer it on in 2,500 SKUs are just there on a shelf, and they want it delivered as fast as Amazon delivers. And there's no point in telling them that it's print on demand. That's not what they're in this for. So this has been the progression of our industry, our part of the online print industry. And we are now firmly into this next block. And if you ask me, when we look at what happened to posters and canvases and photos and photo books, they've moved well into this, and it's only now that the very last consumers are getting around to printing pictures online, but pretty much anybody who wants to print a picture expects to see it online now. They've become very established industries. But the print-on-line garment industry is still relatively early majority. So as we look at what happened in photos and posters, by our opinion, is that pressure on the market as it just became a standard part of consumer behavior, and as big people entered into it and retailers entered into it, it put up the pressure. We still expect to see a lot of companies disappear. In my market, talking to consumers in the US, we track over 200 competitors in the US. By traffic, we're the fourth biggest in the US. But there's 196 people beneath me trying to get to that traffic, and they are going to thin out very fast now. That the market is growing up. There is not room for 200 people. They will disappear. Many of them are not profitable. We are. Many of them do not have the scale of operations to be sustainable, and I expect that we will be seeing a fairly large culling going on. And eventually, as you have seen, say, in photo books, there's a lot of amalgamation of all the small people who started up, and they've become part of bigger groups. You see the same happening in a lot of the other print areas in B2B print, that there is this amalgamation into larger groups because you can get to a more scalable, more sustainable business that way. And it becomes all about that sustainability of size, scale, and being able to deliver to the end customer, whatever your customer is about, and making something that lasts every single year. So this is the progression that we find ourselves going through now. So when I go back to, let's say, my 3 basic business models, we talk to the consumers that use us in a very different way now. We talk to them about not creating t-shirts. We sell to them in the Create Your Own Business the occasion, birthdays, events, Yes, traditionally stag nights and hen nights have been around for years, but now we market on events all the time. Any event you can think of, whether it's an occasion for one or an occasion for 100, that is where my marketing teams push for. That is where they are now trying to sell to the consumers. It's about fulfilling the event and the occasion. It is not about the fact that it is printed. In the marketplace, to take the change from where it was a range of stuff you could print, which was largely very heavily clip art and a lot of student jokes and drinking, we have really moved into a much more artistic field, and we encourage much more artistic pictures. We encourage much more memes and themes of what's going on in the news, because that's what people are buying into. That is what people have searched for on Google. So when people think, right, my friend's into goats, I need to find a goat t-shirt, they're searching for goat t-shirt, not t-shirts. And that's where we pick it up. Actually, in terms of marketing, it's fantastic, because the word custom t-shirt in the US on Google costs you $15 a click. So average cost per customer, $300. My average basket size in the US is $50. That isn't going to work out. So what we actually do is we market on the memes. I couldn't tell you what goat t-shirt goes for right now. I do know that Stephen Hawkins, as soon as he died and people created t-shirts in our marketplace and put them for sale, when people were looking him up in the news on Google, Google's taking our Stephen Hawkins t-shirt and putting it next to that, because nobody else is advertising around that. Our systems automatically create that within minutes, and therefore we're only paying 2 cents a click. And that's much more effective marketing. We can build consumers interested in this marketplace, and we build artists who build things and make a living doing this. And it becomes part of a culture and a community of people interested in the content, not the printing. And in the shops, we talk all about making money, because that's why people do it. They're enabling these people to make money. They're not interested, it's print on demand. They just need to get messaging out fast to their fans. But as we grow up in this market, we have to add in new channels. And so for some time, we have been selling on Amazon, and we're now expanding our retail business, where the best things from our marketplace and our shops are now put out into retailers. And their consumers don't even know it's got anything to do with Spreadshirt if we do our job right. Stephen Hawkins sold incredibly well on Amazon all over the world this week. And essentially, we're picking up different customer types here. But we're using that energy of content we develop in, say, the Spreadshirt own business. And then latterly, as we've seen the rise of other e-commerce platforms enabling really small people to do merchandising, in Q3 this year, we will be launching a fulfillment business that allows people in other e-commerce platforms to easily plug into us as nothing more than a drop shipping business. And as you can see, my emphasis all the way through here is much more about the traveling of that content. It does not mean that I don't have a team of people who wake up every morning and care about running production facilities. I have 5 of them in the world. They have 13 processes in. They are identical. And we measure quality time. We are moving from one printing type to another printing type, evolving our, and here you've got time per piece, and evolving our systems to make that faster all the time. And over the last couple of years, we've really improved that. In fact, if you look at last year, time per piece here, we put new printing methodologies into the US and worked methodologies, and we got them down to 6 minutes. When I joined Spreadshirt in 2009, we were 14 minutes a piece. And the last factory to go through that will be Poland. They're already down to 7.5 minutes, and they will be down to 6 minutes by the end of the year. That's all nice if you like printing, if you're really into printing. What it actually means is when I'm selling on Amazon, and customers who now will be buying through Amazon Prime, they expect their t-shirt to be printed same day and put in the post. My time per piece has to come down so I can get them out same day. It is all about that consumer expectation even then. When I stand in a factory, I don't talk to them about print techniques. I talk to them about the consumer on Amazon does not know it's printed and does not care. We have to be able to print fast and get it out to them fast. But actually, behind this is a vast amount of technology, and that is underneath it, the way to these markets. I have about 300 people printing across the 5 factories, but I have 120 engineers and product managers working on systems, because that is the only way you can create your own businesses, marketplaces, shops, Amazon businesses and fulfillment operating in 18 countries, 64 different types of sales tax, 19 different types of income tax, licensing and copyright laws that frankly take 5-day conferences just to summarize. All of that we have to automate. So the other route to successful sort of sustainability in these markets is really to start using technology to automate things. That, yes, we can improve the printing technologies, we can improve the marketing, but to become scalable, there's a huge amount of investment in that central platform that has to go on continuously. Yeah. So really, that gives you an idea of our evolution. And I hope that's interesting to you because you've maybe experienced similar things and you've had some complexity difficulties to deal with, technology difficulties. Nearly everybody I know has a legacy issue in their technology. I'm just finishing a 5-year program to remove all of our technology. I've got 1 year left of it, but it's been a massive investment to replace all of that and get it up to scratch. These are things you're probably dealing with. And many of you might be in the more right-hand side of this curve, but there are already new things coming up. So cutting and sewing and making clothing on order in our business is coming up. That's still really early days. Lots of people are hyper excited about it, but there's very little revenue in it yet. But I suspect it will catch up with us much, much quicker. And the cool thing with that is, actually, I start the graph with our market size being about the consumers who really want that personalized goods. But as it becomes more adopted by retail as a supply chain, we expect it to become much, much bigger as a market. It's just not seen as being part of that market. It's just part of normal retail behavior. And that's essentially what will be driving, hopefully, most of our revenues, if you're working anywhere to do with retail or consumer selling. But even within business to business, people expect those things to be there. They expect to be able to come to a conference and have personalized goods that come with that, or have a team event, or even wear things which are going on in their office all the time as part of their daily life. So that was briefly us and the market development around us. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much.